Hey, good morning or afternoon, everyone. This is Mark Hamblin here, and today I'm going to take you through a little bit about using our maintenance manager solution within Business Central to manage your maintenance, primarily production equipment, but can be used for almost anything you like. So here's, some of the key applications we have in the manufacturing environment. So one is that enhanced planning pack. Again, the enhanced planning worksheet and forecast worksheet are free if you want, but if you want the whole thing that gives us analysis and planning, all sorts of other good stuff, you get the enhanced planning pack. Again, this is used for planning your production or planning your purchasing. And the maintenance manager, you use it to plan your PM schedule, to plan your spare parts purchasing, all that kind of stuff. But in the context of manufacturing, we plan our production. We then schedule it either with our automated scheduling or the graphical scheduler, which is free. We schedule it, then we execute it. We have quality inspector, we have safety logbook, we have shop floor insight. That's all, once we've got that production on the shop floor, we're managing it through these tools. And then once it's done, we get it out the door. I'm not going to get into these in detail, but the ability to automate fulfillment and barcode scanning and shipping. Now, the piece that's missing out of here, right? So we've got planning, scheduling, execution, fulfillment. One of the pieces that's missing in this whole sort of, scheduling and execution side is the maintenance part. What happens when we have a machine go down, or what happens when we need preventative maintenance on a piece of equipment, things like that? Well, that's why you're here. That's where this maintenance manager comes in. Because what that allows us to do now is actually incorporate those maintenance schedules, break fix and NPM into, the production process. And again, maintenance manager can be used for any asset you want out there, but it works best when it's sort of included as part of this overall process, this overall ecosystem where we're doing planning, scheduling, execution, and then maintenance is often a core part of that. All right. So what does that maintenance manager give you? So basically what it says there, you can create maintenance schedules, break fix stuff for any asset. Doesn't have to be production asset like I've been mentioning. You could have, you know, probably wouldn't have light bulbs as something you need to maintain, but there are even things like torque wrenches for certifications, things like that, or laptops or whatever you like. It can be used for anything you want. It does have some, it really is tailored to work in that production environment, those production assets. And the key here is it works with everything in Business Central. So it's built into Business Central. And the reason it'll work with all third-party ISV apps, so our applications, other people's applications, everything else, is because we leverage production orders as the maintenance work order. So some of you might be going, what the heck are you doing? A lot of people expect us to be using the services module for this because a lot of people currently in Business Central, if you don't have a dedicated, asset maintenance tool, you're using service orders to manage your assets. Well, service orders don't actually work as well as production orders, right? Production orders gives us the ability to define a work order, define our work steps as routings, and this also consumes the capacity on those work centers that we're managing. And we can define all of our spare parts inventory list or our PM parts list, right? So if I'm doing an oil change, I can have my oil filter, my oil, optional drain plug, whatever I want, I can define that. And I've got everything I need in the production module to manage my service, like my asset maintenance. So that's what we've done. We've leveraged the production order module to do it. And that allows us to do everything. So we can use all the standard BC capabilities. So purchasing, spare parts inventory management, labor management, scheduling, all of that just works. And the beautiful thing about that is you can get up and running very quickly with Maintenance Manager, right? So when we look at what happens when people are doing, implementing a maintenance program, electronic maintenance program, CMMS, as we typically call it, everybody wants to do it, right? Because they're running around with paper and maybe some Excel spreadsheets, or you got a bunch of oily books sitting in the maintenance manager's desk, and there's a lot of manual stuff. So you want to move to electronic maintenance management. The challenge is it sounds great, but getting that up and running is very, very difficult. Even if you're doing a very, very simple off-the-shelf solution, it's very hard to actually start making use of that and using it in a way that, the accounting department and everybody needs it to work. So by taking this approach, it makes it very easy to get up and running with maintenance management in Business Central, like very, very easy. We're talking, days and you're up and running, all integrated with everything you need in Business Central. Okay. Now, at this point, I will point out though, we're not an EAM. We're not an enterprise asset management system. We're more like a CMMS. We're maintenance management. You're creating work orders. You're doing PMs. You're doing, break fix type stuff. We're not going to have all the same features as what you might find in a full-fledged EAM. But again, that's one of the strengths. It makes it very quick and easy to get up and running with electronic maintenance records and capturing the costs for maintenance and managing your parts and everything else. All right. So blabbed about that long enough. Let's actually go in and see what this thing looks like. Okay. And there was a question on this now. Yes, a premium license for Business Central is required because we use the production, right? So, and just to offset that a little, like I said, a lot of people use the service module to do internal asset maintenance unless you buy a third party. That service module also requires the BC Premium license. And again, even though you can use the maintenance manager application with, any type of asset you want in Business Central, it really is targeted to that production asset maintenance, right? Work centers, machine centers, tooling, those types of things is what we're targeting. Though, as we'll get into this, you can use it for vehicles, forklifts, whatever you really want to use it for. Okay, so let's get into kind of what it takes to just set up the maintenance managers to install it. There's some basic setup. When you run the setup wizard, it basically sets everything up, that you need. You don't really have to get into this at all. But one of the things that I'll mention here is we have the ability to work against fixed assets, but also what we call maintenance equipment items. And what that does is it allows us to use an item as a maintenance equipment, as something that you're going to maintain. Okay, so you don't need fixed assets set up to do this maintenance. And instead of having some custom thing that's a piece of equipment that you need to maintain, we use items, or we can use items. And the value in that is you can now do things like move that asset around, move that piece of equipment around. I can transfer it from location to location. I can use it if it's tooling or something. Maybe it's a mold that I need to maintain. Well, I can use that as a constraint when we're talking about MX APS. So MX APS is our automated production scheduling, where if I've scheduled that mold for maintenance, it's not going to be available for the schedule to use and schedule, parts that need that mold, as an example. So this ability to keep items in inventory is pretty slick because now I can use transfer orders. I can, do inventory counts on that equipment. All of those sorts of things can be done. Okay, so you have that option to use that capability or not. If you need more detail when we, set this up, we'll do some training and teach you how that works and what the options are. And you can check our knowledge base. It's got descriptions of how this stuff works. All right. At any rate, you really don't need to touch this at all. What you need to do to start using Maintenance Manager is you need to set up first your equipment that you're going to be using. So you can have assets and this equipment. And the equipment, I've got it in here sort of in the analysis view. So I've got it broken down by, the area that it's, listed in and that sort of thing, or the category. I've got a couple of different vehicles and I've got all sorts of, other equipment in here. But basically what this is, it's a list of the equipment that I have in the system. And now I have a couple of options when I set up a piece of equipment. And really all we need for that piece of equipment is, just an ID and a description. That's effectively all you need at bare minimum. There's some other settings you can set up if you want more. But what we can also do, if you look at something like this laser cutter, this maintenance equipment is tied to this specific machine center. So now when we're doing maintenance on this piece of equipment, it knows which work center or machine center we're going to use capacity on. In other words, if I've got maintenance scheduled for this piece of equipment is going to be used up during that maintenance. Okay. And if you're using the graphical schedule, you can see that and you manage it manually. if you're using our APS or advanced planning and scheduling, then it'll automatically take that into account and it won't schedule production when maintenance is scheduled. Okay. The other option down here is I've got this linked to specific fixed assets. Okay, so this one's not tied to a work center or machine center, it's tied to a specific fixed asset. So you have both options. And the third option, this lift truck here, I don't have a fixed asset for it, and I also don't have a work center or anything like that for it as well. So it can be anything you like. You've got a lot of different options. I've got, this is an air conditioner unit or whatever. It's not tied to a work center or fixed asset, but I can still perform maintenance on it. Okay. And again, typically it's going to be, tied to machine center, work center, for the way we anticipate people are going to use it. So let me open up one of these, you know, uh, maintenance equipment items here. And, you'll see it's basically just a normal item, but it's flagged now as maintenance equipment, right? And down here is where we get some of the maintenance specific information for it. So up at the top, we've again linked this to a specific machine center, or we can link it to a specific asset, or both. We can still refer to an asset if we've got a laser cutter asset here as well. And then down below, these are what we call assignments. They're tasks that we've assigned. So these are maintenance tasks that we've assigned to this specific piece of equipment. Now, one of these is a break fix. It's got no duration. It's a break fix thing. But these two here are periodic maintenance tasks. And I'm going to show you tasks in a sec. But what we've got, and this one, it says, you can see that checkbox. It says maintenance is due on this weekly laser cutter maintenance. We've got a few different things we can set here. This is in a duration of weeks, and I'm going to show you what these maintenance tasks look like. But what it allows us to do is say, okay, this is the type of maintenance I need to perform on this piece of equipment on a regular basis. You'll see this one says runtime here. Because we've got this tied to a work center or machine center here, we will automatically bring in the runtime from production orders that are posted to increase that interval. So if you say, hey, every 1,000 hours, I need to perform preventative maintenance on that, that'll come in automatically from you just normally running your production process, right? So as I'm posting time against that particular machine center, it's going to come in. Maintenance manager is going to look at that and say, okay, you're now due for PM because you've hit that runtime threshold. We can also do output quantity. So if you have, a mold or a piece of equipment or something like that, every 10,000 cycles, or 10,000 outputs, you need to go ahead and do some maintenance on it. We can also capture that automatically from you just posting the production orders the way you would normally do. And then duration is time-based. There's also distance and a few other things you can do. So effectively, I've got my asset, and I know what it's tied to, and I've got the tasks I need to perform in that asset. And then down below, you would have your intervals to show you, where we are with the runtime and duration and everything else. Okay, so pretty simple. It's really simple to set up and use. If we look at one of these vehicles that we've got here, it's exactly the same. Give it a sec to load. It's exactly the same. We've got some, we're tied to a fixed asset in this case, and we've got, oil change, inspection, and a flat tire. And here's one that shows the interval. We're currently at 21,000 miles, and because that's where our unit of measure is, and our previous one was 15,000. And so, when we hit a certain threshold in miles, it's going to tell us that maintenance is due. Okay, so that's really all you need to look at from the equipment. You can set up hierarchies. That's an often a question for this. So you could do it. You can group this by many different methods, by hierarchy, by item category code, by custom fields, all that sort of thing. There was a question on the sign up for this on using assembly bombs. Some people use assembly bombs as well to build a hierarchy of the subcomponents for this. You can do that as well. But a key point on that is, this is a vehicle, and we can do maintenance against that vehicle, like an oil change. But I might also have, maybe this thing has a lift gate on it or something like that. That can be also a maintenance equipment item that's a sub item, a subcomponent of this that I can also do maintenance on. So yes, I can have, the top level maintenance item, and I can have a whole bunch of, internal maintenance items for that. Like on that weekly or on the laser cutter that we had there, I could have the bed, I could have the laser, I could have the CNC motors. I can have all of that kind of stuff as individual components that I can work on. A couple other things here, standard dock extender stuff where I can drag and drop documents in here. I can have pictures. Actually, let's go back to that laser cutter. You can bring in anything you can do on that item. You can bring in here. So if I want to attach, you know, um, uh, you know, troubleshooting guides, technical manuals, all that, I can just drag and drop them into the system. I can, list, show the photos and everything for that, for those assets, those sorts of things, all within Business Central here. Okay. All right, so that's how we set up the maintenance equipment. Maintenance parts, very similar. They're just items in Business Central, nothing special, other than they're flagged as maintenance items, right? So if I open up one of these, so we've got some engine oil here. So this is flagged as a maintenance part. So we know this is used in maintenance. And so when we're doing purchasing, we can do just the maintenance items independently of planning purchasing for anything else we might use in that environment. But otherwise, it's just like a normal item in Business Central, right? I've got inventory across multiple locations. I can have purchase orders for it. I've got some work orders here that require it that are already outstanding. And one of the nice things is I can come in here and I can set my planning parameters, right? So that's another thing on the maintenance stuff. A lot of these maintenance programs, they have completely separate, ways of managing spare parts and repair parts and things like that. With this, it's all Business Central. So whether I want to have a stock keep unit, like different repair facilities have different manufacturing or repair facilities at different stocking levels or whatever you want, I can come in here, set the stocking levels, and get that automated purchasing right through Business Central. And again, if you're using the enhanced planning worksheet, that's the ideal way to do it. Is it's got a much more simplified way of doing purchasing based on your mins maxes or your demand or whatever you want to set up here. So it makes it really easy to manage your spare parts. It works just like Business Central. Even consumables that you don't necessarily want to stock or cost out. Well, yeah, Business Central's got all that capability as well, right? You can go in there and you can indicate that it's a non-inventory item. It's just an O-ring you don't want to, keep track of, but you do want to have, the ability to see usage and things like that. Okay, so anyway, standard Business Central stuff. It's just flagged as a maintenance part, and away you go. Okay, so that's the base data that we set up. Where the key to all this comes in is when we set up these maintenance tasks. So let's look at one of these guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the weekly laser cutter maintenance here, right? So we've got some other things that are corrective actions, and we've got our preventative maintenance. So corrective is, yeah, like it's broken and it's, high priority, like somebody's going to get fired if it's not fixed. So you can set priorities and things like that. So we've got corrective actions, corrective maintenance, where you can put in a work request, and from there somebody can approve it and create a work order. And we've got, of course, the traditional ones that we're looking at, which are the preventative maintenance tasks. So if I come in here, we'll just hide that fact box for 2 seconds. You can see, okay, it's preventative maintenance. We've got this production BOM. That production BOM is going to be all the spare parts we need to perform this activity. It can be blank. You can just have a blank one and, consume whatever items that you use during maintenance if you like. And the tech can do that on a handheld device, or you can do it right in Business Central. And the routing is going to include all of our work instructions, work steps. We can incorporate multiple trades in there. So if I'm doing this laser cutter maintenance, maybe I need a mechanic and electrician to do that instead of just one millwright or something along those lines. This maintenance order number, you can change the number series just to differentiate between your different types of PM or corrective action work orders. Down here is really the key, right? So this is telling us how often we need to perform this maintenance. So in this case, it's every week, and we don't have an effective start or end, but you can set that so that, hey, for the first year, we're doing it every week. After that, we're doing it every 2 weeks or vice versa. We can do things like that. But this duration, again, runtime, we bring in automatically when you post production orders. Output, we bring in automatically when you post output on production orders. Duration and distance need to be measured. Well, duration is not measured. It's measured by the universe, I guess, because it's just time. But distance, you'd have to measure. You'd have to go in there and indicate, what the current count is, like the mileage or whatever, on that. And output count, by the way, if it's not something you typically output from within BC, you could update that interval through some other means. If you have integration with a PLC or something and you want to use that to drive the output count in BC, you could do that integration and bring that in. Okay. All right. So those are the different things you can have. And duration could be weeks, months, days, years, all that kind of stuff. Distance, oops, it's yelling at me because I've got that duration. I'd have to undo that and just change the status. Anyway, I'm not going to bother changing the status. We'll just change that back to duration and refresh. The reason it yelled at me, by the way, is the status is active. So there's a few different statuses, just like in a production order, we got requested, active, and closed. So I'd have to move it back to requested, which is kind of under development, and then I can make my changes and then move it back to an active schedule. Okay. All right, so that's the duration or the interval capabilities we have. And then down here are the assignments. So I've got this task, which is, the weekly laser cutter maintenance. Well, I have two pieces of equipment that require that work to be done. And so I come in here and I assign this task to the different pieces of equipment that need that work done. So both of these laser cutters have the same sort of instructions, same spare parts list, things like that. So if you had a fleet of Ford or Chevy trucks or something, all of those items, if I'm doing a periodic oil change, they're all going to have the same spare parts, same work instructions, everything else. So I create one task and then I can assign it to multiple pieces of equipment. Or torque wrenches, right? I need to, calibrate torque wrenches, once a year or every 6 months or whatever, and I've got 10 of them. I have one task and I assign it to those 10 items. Simple as that. All right. Now, once I've got all that set up, so after this, you guys will be able to install this and probably use it. This is basically the training on how to use it. So after I've got that, what we've got here is we've got our task defined with our intervals set for them. And we've assigned that to, the equipment that needs those tasks performed. That's really all we need to do. Now we can generate our work orders. And if we come over here, you can see, okay, this particular task, we've got two pieces of equipment that need it. And this assignment quantity due means this is how many of those pieces of equipment need this maintenance performed now, based on, in this case, weekly duration, right? Here's another one where it's another weekly inspection that is due. And here it's corrective action. So we kind of have to do it right away. But this is telling us, okay, we've got two pieces of equipment that need this maintenance performed. So I have a couple of options here. I can go in under the planning and I can just plan maintenance where due. And what that's going to do is it's going to create effectively maintenance orders, which are, again, behind the scenes production orders, but it's going to create maintenance orders for any of these tasks that need to be performed now based on the interval that's set. The other thing I can do is I can do this auto schedule tasks where I can say, you know what, I want to see what my maintenance schedule looks like for the next 6 months based on, the intervals that are set. So if I go in there, I can say, hey, yeah, starting today till the end of the month, or sorry, end of the year, what does my maintenance schedule look like? So it goes out and guess what? It's the planning worksheet. Why? Because we're just using production orders. But here is my maintenance plan basically for the next, whatever it is, 2 months-ish, 3 months, I guess, right? And it's come in, and I already had a plan on there before, but it's come in and it's giving me everything I need to do for the next X number of months, whatever I put into my my filters when I generated that schedule. All right. And this, of course, includes all of my spare parts, all of my capacity that I'm going to use on these laser cutters, all that kind of stuff is managed from here. I can review this, I can decide what I want to do, and then I can just create the work orders directly from here. Or if I want to view it on the graphical scheduler, before I actually do anything, I can go ahead and, view that on the graphical scheduler from here directly to see what that maintenance schedule looks like. Okay. So that's how we would forward plan sort of our PM stuff that has, time-based duration. So again, I can just come in here, periodically look at what maintenance is due, plan it out, or I can plan it into the future and then also get an idea of all the, parts and components and everything I need to perform that maintenance over the next month or whatever it happens to be. Okay. Now, a couple other things we can do there. There is the maintenance calendar. This just uses the graphical scheduler. It's just a different view in the graphical scheduler that shows me all the maintenance that's planned. And of course, I got nothing planned here. Doesn't look like. All right, I'll show you another one. This is all the planned maintenance. But the idea behind this is you can actually go in. The standard view that I have selected typically is a calendar view, right? So here I can show it in sort of that, monthly Gantt style view, but I'm actually able to go in there and use a calendar view as well. So if I want to see an Outlook style view of what's happening for the next week, I can see that and I would see all my planned maintenance activities in this calendar view and I can drag and drop and everything else. So another good way of seeing it, if I just care about the maintenance side, this is showing me just my maintenance orders coming up. But again, the idea behind this is we often will use this in production environments where I want to see what the impact of that maintenance is going to be related to production. So if I go under the graphical scheduler here, again, if you use our MX APS tool, which is the automated production scheduling, advanced planning and scheduling, it's going to automatically slot that maintenance in and not schedule production activities when that maintenance needs to occur. So if you've ever seen any of the demos that I've done on this, this is just my production schedule here. I've got, all my production orders. This is all production related activities. These are green because they're planned or firm planned or something, but you can change the colors. And I've got a couple of other things on here. So one, I've actually got downtime scheduled here in red, right? So that's red because it's a specific type. I've used an absence registration to just block that machine, but that would typically be a work request, like a corrective action thing. And here in blue, I've got my maintenance orders mixed in with my production schedule, right? So normally, I mean, this is not much of a production schedule. We've got a lot of spare capacity in the shop. Normally, I'd be able to see that production or that maintenance activity alongside any other production that's scheduled around that same time. So if I zoom into that, we can see it's this maintenance order. It's, the weekly laser cutter maintenance, and it's mixed in with all of my production activities that are occurring at the same time, which luckily we don't have any production activities occurring when this maintenance one is, but I can drag and drop this. I want to do this different time, different day, whatever. I can move that and I'm rescheduling that maintenance activity right from here. Okay, so you've got all that ability to do that planning and scheduling in conjunction with your production schedule. Now, to actually execute a maintenance order, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can just go in there and it's just Business Central, right? Like it's just a production order. So we've got the maintenance capabilities here. When you look at the maintenance production order, if I'm a normal production guy, I don't see this maintenance stuff at all, right? If I just open up a normal release production order, I won't see this. I only see this if I'm in the maintenance manager role center, and I can see some details about the maintenance and everything else. But otherwise, it's just a standard Business Central production order. I can consume parts on here. I can specify how much labor went on this. I can do all of those sorts of things right from within Business Central. If you want your technicians, your millwrights, whatever on the shop floor being able to do this, you have a few options. You can run this again on a tablet right within Business Central using the Business Central app. You can use our shop floor mobile version. We have two of those where you can run it on a tablet or a phone or whatever to record parts and labor against these work orders. So on a phone or tablet, with a couple of different options for UIs. Or if you're already running shop floor insight with a kiosk mode approach, you can use that as well. So let me just show you the kiosk mode. If you're doing a mobile device like a tablet or a phone or something like that, the UI is a little different, but same or similar capabilities. So this is the kiosk mode for shop floor insight, typically used to capture labor time for production activities. In this case, we're going to capture, labor, material, whatever we need to do for maintenance activities. So as a millwright, I'm this thing is set up near the laser cutter area where employees are going in and recording how much time they're spending. Well, I'm gonna, scan my badge here to identify who I am. And I'm a millwright or a technician that comes in. And what I see is I see all the maintenance work orders that, well, either are assigned to me down here or that are open and haven't been assigned. So I could choose any one of these to actually go and do the work. And I can search for a specific thing, or I can just tap on this. And when I tap on this, if it's a touch screen or use the mouse and the keyboard, it's going to give me a bunch of information about what I need to do, right? So I've got, my work instructions that are coming in off that task. I've got, the manuals that were tied to that equipment. I've got the picture, all of that in there. So if I want, something's wrong, I'll open up in a different window here. So if I want to see that document, it'll open up, give me all the details I need for troubleshooting, or I can open up the tech manual, whatever I need to do from here. But typically what I would do is, if I open it up in this view, I just hit clock on if I want to start that work, or I could just scan a barcode to start that work. So if I've got a printed out maintenance order, I could scan that, but I don't need that paper if I don't want, because I've got everything I need here. So I can basically clock on, and now we're recording who's doing that work, how long it takes them, all that sort of thing. If I've got multiple technicians on this job, I can have an electrician scan into it. I can have, a mechanic in it. I can have all those people all clocked into it simultaneously on their own time cards. And then again, we know exactly who did it, when they did it, all those sorts of things. And they've got all this information electronically. And again, if you want to run this on a tablet, you can, or even on a phone, you've got the same information. We can also record parts, right? So if I'm consuming parts on that, like the standard spare parts would typically be backflushed, like if I'm doing regular weekly maintenance, maybe there's some fluid I have to change or an O-ring I always change, we can have that backflush. But I could also go in there and record additional items that I'm using for this particular maintenance activity. Okay, so that's one way you can capture that information on the shop floor. Either something like this, which is just running in a web browser at a fixed kiosk, or a tablet or a phone if you prefer. Okay, and that's standard shop floor insight. And that's the key point there, right? It doesn't matter if you use shop floor insight or not. Maybe you have some other tool out there that you use for capturing what's happening in the shop floor. Well, that's feeding information back into Business Central. Guess what? It'll work with Maintenance Manager just as it is. You don't need to do anything else, because Maintenance Manager is just using the core capabilities within Business Central. We're adding that ability to define tasks and do PM scheduling and all that stuff on top of it, but the core is just standard Business Central. So let's talk about pricing real quick. So it's available now from AppSource. There's two ways you can buy it. Again, you need the Premium BC license. There's two ways you can buy it. You can buy it directly from Microsoft on AppSource. If you do that, it's per user, and it's $50 per user per month. That user is just the manager user. So the person that's setting up the maintenance equipment, the maintenance parts, all that, that's what needs this license. Nobody else needs a license for Maintenance Manager. So in the vast majority of cases, it's $50 a month, and you can have 100 different people using Maintenance Manager. Okay, this $50 a month is for the administrator of Maintenance Manager, so the person that's creating equipment items, creating equipment or parts, creating the tasks, all that. That's who needs that license. None of the techs or anybody needs a license for Maintenance Manager. Okay, so if you buy directly from AppSource, that's how it works. Buying from AppSource is a big pain in the butt, but because you got to buy it, then you got to license it. It's a pain in the butt. Easiest way to try it out is just to install the trial version and go. If you buy what we call the pre-purchase Maintenance Manager user plan, you still buy it from AppSource. but you don't pay Microsoft, you pay us, and then it's $200, and then it's unlimited users within that company. Okay, so that's an alternate way. If you have multiple maintenance manager administrators, then this might be the easier approach. Okay, but it's basically $50 a month. If you got one person that's going to be setting up equipment, tasks, all that kind of stuff, that's all you'll spend on it. So keep that in mind when you're like, hey, does it do mean time between failure reporting? Does it do statistical analysis? Well, it's $50 a month. It might do that one day, but right now it doesn't. All right. With that, if you have any other questions, you can check out the website on it. On there, there's chat. You can chat with us if you have additional questions, or talk to your partner if you have that. But Maintenance Manager, great tool to fit in that scheduling and execution sliver of functionality that everybody needs, but nobody uses because they're too scared to go to electronic maintenance programs. Maintenance Manager is really the solution to that. All right. With that, thanks everybody. Glad you attended. Hope you have a good rest of the week.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content, and remember to hit that bell icon to stay updated. See you in the next video.